बेटा स्किन जो है, स्किन इज मेड अप ऑफ टू layers, right? The upper one is epidermis. This is the epidermis, and this epidermis is further divided into three layers. The first one was the cornified, right? And I told you that cornified, it is dry, dead, horny. The cells which are present in the cornified layer are dry, dead, horny, and they have the deposition of keratin. Keratin is a protein which gives them the rough appearance, and these are dead. The cells which are present in cornified layer are dead. Dead means that they cannot divide and form the new cells, and they might be rubbed off. Okay, when we rub our hands, so at the top there is the dead layer of skin, that is actually the cornified. This is the first layer of epidermis. Then there is the second layer, which is it is not mentioned in this figure. There is a second layer which is a cornified. There is a second layer that is granular layer. ठीक है, इस पिक्चर में नहीं है. ये इस फिगर में हम देखते हैं. ओके बेटा, फर्स्ट इज द कॉर्निफाइड. ठीक है, कॉर्निफाइड मैंने आपको बताया है कि इट इज द ड्राई, डेड एंड सेल्स प्रेजेंट इन दिस आर डिपॉजिटेड विद द केराटिन. केराटिन मेक्स देम रफ एंड गिव देम द हॉर्नी अपीयरेंस. उसके बाद जो सेकंड लेयर है विच इज शोन हियर एज अ पर्पल, दिस इज नोन एज द ग्रैन्युलर लेयर. ठीक है, ग्रैन्युलर भी मैंने आपको बताया था. दिस कंटेन्स लिविंग सेल्स, and when the cells in the granular layer they move upward, they become dead and they ultimately forms the cornified layer. इसके नीचे जो third layer है which is shown here in the form of curves, it's known as the Malfigian layer. ठीक है, this is the Malfigian layer, and Malfigian layer, it has the living cells, and here the actually cells divide and they form new cells. And when these cells move upward, they first form the granular layer, and when those cells become dead, they ultimately form the cornified layers when they move upward. This Malfigian layer, or the cells in this layer, they also have a pigment which is known as the melanin, and that melanin is responsible for the darkening of the skin. This Malfigian layer, which is the third layer of the epidermis, that contains a pigment which is melanin, and melanin is responsible for darkening of our skin. If our skin color is darker, it means that it has more melanin, and if it is lighter, it means that it has less melanin. And this pigment also prevents our body from ultraviolet radiation or sunburn. So this is very important pigment. It also prevents from ultraviolet radiation. Epidermis has three layers, right? And then is beneath epidermis is the dermal layer, dermis. Most of the structures which help in maintaining our body temperature, and they are present in the dermal layer of the skin. Third is known as it has the adipose tissues, and this is known as the subcutaneous layer. This third layer where the adipose tissues are present, it is known as the subcutaneous layer. Right, in dermis, there are blood capillaries present. Blood capillaries will have the oxygenated blood. They will carry oxygenated blood from heart through arteries into the skin, and they will provide this to the skin cells, and then they will bring the deoxygenated blood back to the heart through the veins. Then you can see this structure. Yes, this one beta, this is actually showing the sweat gland pura. Okay, overall there is a knot present at the bottom. This knot is known as the sweat gland, and this tube is known as the sweat duct. This is the duct tube, and there is a hole or pore at the top. Opening is at the top in the epidermal layer, that is known as the sweat pore. There is a pore through which the sweat will be excreted out of the body. Okay, and sometimes you have to identify. So this knot is actually the sweat gland, which is connected here. You can see it's also connected with the blood vessels, and later on we are going to discuss its function. Blood will be flowing through these capillaries, which are connected with the sweat gland, and excretory products like urea, water, and some of the salts are diffused. They move from high concentration to the low. They move from blood capillaries into the sweat duct. They move from blood capillaries into this sweat knot, and then they move through the duct out of the body. They move by the process of diffusion and osmosis. Okay, and then we studied just about the erector muscle. बेटा ये जो epidermis है, this sinks down into the dermis layer, और वहां पर ये क्या बनाती है? Here it forms a hole. This is the hole, and this hole is known as the hair follicle. This epidermis sinks down into the dermal layer and it forms a hole. This hole is known as the hair follicle, right? And this follicle is the hole in which the hair grows. At the bottom of the hair follicle, there are there are some cells which can divide. They divide, and this region is known as the hair papilla, where some cells are present, dividing cells are present. These cells divide and give rise to the new cells. These are at the bottom. These are the living cells. When they move upward, they become dead, and when they are deposited with the keratin, they give rise to the hair. which आपको ये नजर आ रहा है. This is basically dead, but at the bottom there are living cells which are dividing. This is the reason why our hair grows. अच्छा, उसके अलावा एक और स्ट्रक्चर है that is also formed by the sinking of the epidermis into the dermis, and that structure is known as sebaceous gland. Okay, this is the sebaceous gland. Two sebaceous glands are attached with the hair follicle, or they open into hair follicle. You can see both are actually opening into the hair follicle. Sebaceous glands, they secrete sebum. Right, they secrete sebum, and sebum is antiseptic. Antiseptic means they kill the germs which are present on our skin, because that will ultimately be accumulated at the top of the skin, and they kill the germs which are present on our skin. That is antiseptic. It has the antiseptic purpose. Then sebum जो है बेटा, it also has antiseptic property, and then it also lubricates our hair, and it also some lubricates our skin as well, keeps the skin smooth and soft, and prevents the skin from dehydration. And because sometimes you see that oil is accumulated on our body, that oil is actually the sebum. That oil is sebum, and sebum has different purposes. It is antiseptic. Antiseptic means it will kill the germs, and it also lubricates and softens our body, moist our bodies, soften our body, and it also lubricates our body. Okay, beta, here you can see there is a muscle attached. Let me raise this. अच्छा, यहाँ पर बेटा आप देखें कि here is the muscle attached with this hair follicle. Can you see this? This one is the muscle. This one is the muscle which is attached with the hair follicle. It is attached with the hair follicle, and it is known as the erector muscle. Here you can see this is the erector muscle. Now, what is the function of the erector muscle? Erector muscle contracts and it straightens or opens this hair, that the hair will become erect or straight. When this erector muscle will contract, hair will become straight, hair follicle will be like this, and hair will become straight or erected. It will be like this, erect, in the erect position. Okay, we also discussed about these nerve endings. right? These are the parts of the neurons and which are sensitive to some of the stimulus, like they can be sensitive to temperature, touch, and pressure. Sometimes in better pictures, you have to identify these receptors. So just remember those which are at the bottom are the pressure receptors, and those which are at the top, they are the touch receptors. And these nerve endings here you can see, hope so it would be clear. Can you see better these nerve endings? These are just in the form of the small lines or branches. These are the actually temperature receptors. Sometimes you will have to identify. So these are the temperature receptors. And you can see these are packed in the form of a circle. These are your touch receptors. They are also at the top, and temperature nerve endings are also at the top. And those which are at the bottom, these are actually the pressure receptors, right? Okay, almost all structures are discussed. अच्छा बेटा, नीचे आप देखें at the bottom, this is known as the subcutaneous layer. This one which contains the fats. This is the subcutaneous layer. This whole is the subcutaneous layer. These packets are actually showing the lipid molecules. These contain the fat molecules where the fat are deposited. Extra fat which we eat, that is deposited into this subcutaneous layer into our adipose tissues. The adipose tissues store basically fat, and these are present at the bottom of our skin, and in some areas they are subcutaneous layer is thicker. Example are our thighs, belly, where more fat is deposited in those areas, or adipose layer is thicker. Any problem, beta? Any problem? Girls,
No,
beta, can you
miss.
hear me?
No,
अच्छा,
miss.
simply
Not any
ठीक है,
type of
simply we
problem.
studied about the structure, ठीक है, और अब हम देखते हैं कि how this skin helps in maintaining the maintaining temperature of our body. ठीक है, तो सिंपल हमने स्ट्रक्चर देखे हैं. अब हम इसको बेटा आपको मैं बताती हूँ कि जो एपिडर्मल लेयर है, इट एस्पेक्ट्स डू नॉट हैव एनी फंक्शन इन मेंटेनिंग द टेम्परेचर, बट नीचे मैं आपको बताती हूँ. अच्छा बेटा, अब जो है देर आर टू सिचुएशंस, एक विंटर होता है और एक समर होता है, ठीक है. तो अब हमने देखना है कि समर में हाउ दिस स्किन हेल्प्स मेंटेनिंग और बॉडी टेम्परेचर, और विंटर में कैसे करता है, या इसमें थोड़ी सी ज्यादा मैं आपको डिटेल बताती हूँ. अच्छा, डर्मेस हमने कर लिया था. डर्मेस पे टॉप पे मैंने आपको बताया था देर आर द पैपिला. ये जो रिजेस आपको नजर आ रहे हैं, कर्व्स, फोल्डिंग्स नजर आ रही हैं, दीज आर नोन एज द पैपिला. अच्छा, ब्लड वेसल्स हमने बेटा इसमें देखी हैं. Blood capillaries are there. They are actually forming from the arterioles, which are forming from the arteries, which is coming from the heart, and it will have the oxygenated blood. ये भी आपने याद रखना है. अच्छा, ये बेटा जो हमारे पास आर्टरीज हैं, ठीक है, ये कंट्रोल होती हैं बाय वेसोमोटर नर्व. एवरीथिंग इन आवर बॉडी इज एक्चुअली कंट्रोल्ड बाय नर्वस सिस्टम और नर्व्स. तो जो nerve which is controlling the arteries which are present into our body, that is known as the vasomotor nerve. ठीक है, when they will contract or relax, it will be controlled by the vasomotor nerve. अच्छा, अब इसमें बेटा दो फिनोमिना है. वन इज नोन एज द वेसोडाइलेशन, अनदर इज नोन एज द वेसोकंस्ट्रिक्शन. ये दोनों, ठीक है. अच्छा, कंस्ट्रिक्शन मीन्स दैट वेसल्स आर गोइंग टू कंस्ट्रिक्ट और कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, ठीक है, और डायलेशन मीन्स दैट दे आर गोइंग टू डायलेट. अच्छा, जब हमारे पास बेटा ब्लड वेसल्स डायलेट होती हैं तो उसमें क्या होता है, मोर ब्लड फ्लोज, ठीक है. जब हमारे पास ये कंस्ट्रिक्ट होती हैं तो लेस ब्लड फ्लोज. अब हमने बेटा फिनोमिना करना है, इनको आपने गौर से देखना है. स्ट्रक्चर तो आप वैसे भी देख के कर लेंगे. अच्छा, when they are constricting, it means less blood is flowing. When they are dilating, it means more blood is flowing through them. अब इसमें होता क्या है बेटा, जब more blood is flowing, it means के more heat is actually being carried to that part of capillaries, ठीक है, और that part of the blood है. इसमें हमारे पास more heat is flowing. More blood, that means that more heat is flowing as these capillaries are closer to the skin. ठीक है, they are closer to skin, so more heat is actually dissipated or released from the body or removed from the body. ठीक है, ये रिमोट vasodilation में बेटा क्या होगा, more blood is flowing, more means that more heat is actually flowing through those capillaries, and these capillaries, as these are closer to the skin, so it means कि more heat is actually removed from the body. तो हमने बेसिकली हीट बेटा कब रिमूव करनी होती है, इन समर करनी होती है, एज इन समर, ठीक है, देयर इज मोर हीट इन आवर बॉडी, so that should be removed from the body to maintain the temperature at constant. So वो यहाँ से भी बेटा रिमूव होती है थ्रू आवर स्किन, ये इसका फंक्शन हो गया. अच्छा, वेसोकंस्ट्रिक्शन इज द रिवर्स, इट हैपेंस इन समर. समर में आप देखें कि इफ द वेसल्स आर कंस्ट्रिक्टिंग, it means less blood is flowing. Less blood means that less heat is flowing and less heat is dissipated or removed from the body, because we have to preserve heat in our body in winter. सर्दियाँ जो होती हैं उसमें हमने हीट प्रिजर्व करनी होती है. लेस हीट इज बीइंग प्रोड्यूस्ड इन आवर बॉडी, तो टेम्परेचर इज बिलो नॉर्मल, तो उसको हमने हाई करना होता है, उसके लिए मोर हीट इज रिक्वायर्ड. तो जहां जहां से हीट इज लॉस्ट फ्रॉम आवर बॉडी वहां से हीट कम होती है, ठीक है, या खत्म हो जाती है, सो दैट द हीट शुड बी प्रिजर्व्ड इन आवर बॉडी. ये समझ आ गया बेटा ब्लड वेसल्स का फंक्शन. ठीक है, रिस्पॉन्स बेटा दे दिया करें सो दैट कि मैं आगे मूव कर जाया करूं.
अच्छा, में थोड़ा सा समझाते, ब्लड वेसल्स का पूरा समझ नहीं आया.
अच्छा ठीक है, ये हमारे पास टाइम कितना है क्लास का, अभी मुझे टेक्स्ट आया था, इट विल बी
मिस 10 o'clock खत्म होनी है आपकी.
5 मिनट्स रह गए. अच्छा 5 में मैं बेटा ये दोबारा एक्सप्लेन कर देती हूँ, ये कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. अच्छा ये बेटा 40 मिनट्स की मैंने बात की है जूम क्लास की, ठीक है. 40 मिनट के बाद हम इसको दोबारा कनेक्ट करेंगे. यहाँ पे आपको अच्छा, अब बेटा हमने स्ट्रक्चर में जो है स्किन में हमने देखे हैं देयर आर ब्लड वेसल्स प्रेजेंट, ठीक है. वी हैव आल्सो सीन के स्वेट ग्लैंड या स्वेट डक्ट भी हमारे पास प्रेजेंट है. इसी तरह हमने हेयर फॉलिकल या हेयर भी देखा है, दैट इज आल्सो प्रेजेंट. फिर हमने यहाँ पर बेटा नर्व एंडिंग्स भी देखी हैं, और ठीक है, हमने नर्व एंडिंग्स भी देखी हैं कि देयर आर आल्सो सम नर्व एंडिंग्स प्रेजेंट. हमने फैटी लेयर भी देखी है इनटू स्किन. Now we are going to study that how all these structures help in maintaining the body